Hey everyone, welcome to the Fargo 3D Printing Show. It's Jake Clark, John Schneider today on the Fargo 3D Printing podcast. Everyone else is off for Easter last week, so that's why it's just us. But
we're holding down the fort, okay.
But so what we're going to talk today about is Kickstarters and 3D printers and why do some Kickstarters get funded, or what for 3D printing, what's really a successful Kickstarter, and kind of what's out there right now for Kickstarters.
And I mean, even just what's been out there in the past, there's been a ton of different Kickstarter projects. I mean, one of the big things that I see happening with Kickstarter projects, well, first of all, some of the more successful ones that you might have heard of, PrinterBot started out as a Kickstarter project, and they have actually turned themselves into a company, so they've done really well. But it seems like every week, or even sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, there's a new 3D printer that's launching on Kickstarter.
Yes.
And every time one launches on Kickstarter, it's going to be faster, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be easier to use.
It's going to be the next big thing.
Right.
For $70.
But what we've seen over the last few years with 3D printing Kickstarters is a lot of them end up failing. Either they miss their launch date, or they never launch at all, or they launch but then soon after they end up having to shut down just because they can't make money. It's not what was maybe a good successful garage project is not a successful company. It's very difficult.
You got to look at who's actually being a part of the team, because if you look at most of the teams, they're either marketing students or you're a marketing
no
student,
offense taken,
but they're either they don't have any manufacturing background. They don't understand, okay, we're going to put a product together. What does it take to put a product together and sell it for $100 or $200? They don't understand that at all. And nobody usually, if you ask them about what their team is, or you look at their team, none of them usually have a manufacturing or mechanical engineering student. Even they just have marketing or design.
They'll have design. I mean, they'll have industrial designers on there, which is fine. It'll make a printer that looks nice, but and it might even print well. But and this gets back to, and we'll talk about a couple of printers in particular, but this gets back to being able to make a business out of what you're selling, because it's easy to say, okay, it takes $200 for me to purchase the parts to make this printer, to purchase all the materials that it takes to make the printer, and okay, it's going to take me a few, let's say it takes me a day to get everything put together and get everything assembled. So all right, it costs $200 in parts. If I charge $300 for it, oh okay, that's great. I'm making $100 for every printer. Well, that's fine if you're doing 10.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening with a lot of these Kickstarters,
and if you're doing it yourself, not paying yourself,
and this goes for Kickstarters in general, not just 3D printing Kickstarters, but people don't realize that, okay, you're really passionate about it, so of course you're going to be more than happy to put in all the extra hours and all the extra time that it takes to do that. So let's say you're making 1 or 2 printers per day. That's fine. I mean, you can handle that yourself. But if all of a sudden you need to assemble 100 per day, let's say your Kickstarter was massively successful and you sold 2,000 printers. Okay, well now you have to make those. You have to put those together. You have to hire employees.
And now if you can do 1 a day for an 8-hour shift, you have 2,000 days you got to try and put these printers together.
Well, and I mean, realistically, it's not going to take that long, but still, I mean, go with this general concept where it takes X number of hours to put a printer together. But now it's one thing if you're doing that because you're willing to work 80 to 100 hours per week putting this together, and probably paying yourself less than what you could be making with a 40-hour-a-week job somewhere else. Now, someone else to try and get an employee to come on board, and an employee that's skilled enough and meticulous enough to put something together, or even if you're putting kits together, making sure that everything goes in the right box. All right, well, now you need to hire people, and you need to be paying them market rate for doing this. I mean, they're not going to do it.
They want benefits, they want their hourly rate, they want paid time off, and now you have your overhead of the building, you have all the stickers for the product.
For storage and warehousing, you need to...
And you have to buy in volume, and now you have to wait 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, and some parts you might not even be able to get that you might have to even make yourself. So there's a lot that goes into it. Now you have to look at, okay, how do we market ourselves? There's a lot that some of the Kickstarters, they just like, oh, I made this soda can is cool, let's go sell 1,000 of these, and they don't understand what it actually takes to make that can.
And then after you've shipped it out, now you have customer service you need to deal with. You're going to need tech support. People are going to get the product and not know how it works, or they don't know how to read the instructions.
Something's going to break.
I mean, you might have you might have laid out the most beautiful instruction manual on how to use the product, but it doesn't change the fact that you're still going to have people calling in and emailing in, and people that just are abusive to the product and are blaming it on you, but it's still something you need to contend with. But if you weren't charging enough for the product up front to be able to pay someone to deal with all that stuff, or what's more than likely pay multiple someones to deal with all that stuff, or returns, just all the different customer service stuff that goes hand in hand with this, if you're not charging enough money, even if you got your product out the door and shipped to your customers, now you're going to start being upside down. You're going to be spending more money keeping employees on hand than you're having come in. So
you're going to lose money in the end with that kind of scenario.
And what we see happen even more frequently is with 3D printing, someone will develop a printer and it looks good. It has some new feature, maybe auto leveling, or it has a great new extruder on it. But it takes so long from when they launch the Kickstarter to when the product actually gets shipped. I mean, I've seen in some cases 2 to 3 years, and
some of the stuff you backed was
and it still doesn't ship because people don't realize. Okay, before when you had to buy 100 bearings, okay, that's fine. You can get a source for 100 bearings. But now if you need to have a source for 10,000 bearings,
times that by 20 cents, I mean that's a lot of cash that you got to
and it's not even the money. It's finding a vendor that can deal with something like that, and then having a vendor that's reliable. If you don't have good vendor relations, you might drop $50,000 on parts from one vendor in China. Okay, now you're probably going to wait to have it shipped over the ocean because you don't want to pay air freight, so it's just surface freight. So it takes 6 weeks for it to get from China to your door, and then you get it, and you find out that hey, half of these don't even work, half of them are broken or they're defective. All right, well now you've got to try and find a new vendor because you know you're not going to order from them again.
Cost.
Yeah, you have to eat. Yeah, exactly.
You don't return that.
Yeah, but it's not even just the cost in the parts that you've had to they're just scrap. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not just that. The monetary cost, but now you have the time cost. All right, you already had 6 weeks shot. Now, if you find another vendor in China, you're going to have to wait another 6 weeks, but you're not accounting for your time that it took to locate a new vendor. And so let's say it takes an additional 2 months. Well, if you have multiple parts that you run into this situation, it doesn't take very long for you to be a year over schedule. Yeah, a year behind. So
not to deter from people from making their own printers.
Well, no, but if you're gonna make a printer,
right.
you have to charge an appropriate amount.
Well, we ran into one company down in CES that they were holding off from doing their Kickstarter, which I think they might be one of the guys out there that actually gets it. One of the teams that actually gets it. I think they're from Canada. I don't remember the printer name.
Is that the round printer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it was a really sleek looking printer, cylindrical design.
I walked up to him and I said, okay, who's on your team? And he rattled off. I said, that's a good team. You got a little bit of everything. You got a marketing, you got an engineer, you got somebody that understands the not the assembly line,
the workflow.
The workflow, understands, that's not what I was looking for. Supply chain.
Oh, there
understands the supply chain, understands, what's it going to take to ramp up if you sell 100 or if you sell 100,000. They understood that. I thought it was a really good product, and I think it was a really good team, and I liked their idea of, hey, we're going to develop it, we're going to test it, we're going to get all of our ducks, in a row per se before we go to Kickstarter and get all of the orders, because there's nothing like trying to get into something, then you get caught with your pants down and there's no way you can get caught up.
Yeah.
But on that note, there's a couple that are out there right now. There's a Tiko.
I think it's pronounced Tiko.
Okay, it's Tiko.
At least I'm pronouncing it Tiko, and therefore it shall be pronounced Tiko. So anyway, what Jake's getting at, so it's
$179,
and that's its retail price. Now keep in mind, for the early bird, so they offered 100 of these, like for the early bird backers, $99, and then another 400 at $139, and now 2,500 people did it at, I'll be honest, they have a massive amount of people that have decided to back this, but I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, you look at the parts that are necessary for a 3D printer. You have your stepper motors, any sort of, even just rods, your electronics for your hot end. I don't know how they're keeping the cost down to the point where they're making any money on it.
No, they have to be really small stepper motors. They can't be what what the other ones do. But 138.3 cubic inch build volume.
I mean, the thing is, when you look at the specs, you're like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. It's going to use
layer resolution of 50 to 250. Oh yeah, sure.
It looks great on paper, but I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know how they're gonna. I mean, so they're not charging for shipping. Well, I mean, they are charging for shipping. It's not included in the $179 price. So maybe they're charging an insane amount of money for shipping. I don't know, but I don't understand. And we might be completely wrong about this. We could be completely wrong, and it comes out, and it turns out it is a good printer, and it works exactly the way that they said it is for the price that they say it is. But I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to have any money for support. I don't know how they're going to have any of the after-sale support done at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at somebody like a XYZ, that is a big company, and they're $500?
Da Vinci?
Yeah, they're $500 for their printer. And they're a big company, so they can absorb, if they lose a little bit, they can absorb it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's a good printer, but they're not revealing how it works. And they don't even have a fan on the extruder because they say that the way that they designed the fins allows for convection to cool it. Again, if they can pull it off, more power to them, but I've seen too many of these that never materialized. I mean, the Pirate 3D, the Buccaneer 3D printer, I think that one came out for $349, and they couldn't make that one work. I think maybe just now they're shipping, but I don't know.
Well, and
it's really easy for people to think, okay, there's a 3D printer for only $400 on Kickstarter. I'm going to back it. I'm going to get into 3D printing, and then they end up getting the printer. And a lot of the printers that get delivered, they don't perform. And so they start thinking, oh, well, this 3D printing stuff is just a load of crap. And then it sours them on the entire 3D printing experience. It sours them on the whole ecosystem. And they think, oh, well, this one 3D printer was bad. All 3D printers must be bad. So right now we're looking at one.
Well, this isn't.
So it's not a 3D printer, but it's still something that I want to talk about.
Well, yeah.
So this is.
It's like a glorified soldering iron.
Well, this is an example, I think, of a good type of Kickstarter project. Something that it doesn't exist out there, at least not that I'm aware of. It's called the Retouch 3D
soldering iron.
Yeah, well, yeah, but basically it's a specialized soldering iron for
it's got like a little tiny spoon. There's a little tiny spoon on the end that heats up so you can actually blend the different layers to get a nice surface finish. And coming from somebody that I've actually heated up and soldered some pieces, well, not soldered, but I used the soldering iron as the tool to put parts together and smooth out some surfaces. It's kind of a pain in the ass, I'll be honest, because especially with PLA, because PLA deforms so easily under the heat that it's very hard to get a nice smooth surface when you're using a soldering iron. But again, I could be wrong.
No, see, I mean, I think this is good because it has interchangeable tips. So they have tips designed for doing different things. So they have, well, here, let's just go through the different tips that they have, and let's just call this what it is. It's a variable temperature soldering iron, so you can actually control the temperature. So they have a macro remover tip, which is more like almost looks like a little butter knife blade.
You take off supports.
Yeah,
in
so
this case is
for removing large supports, brims, and rafts. Then the macro refiner tip refines larger layer imperfections such as layer blobs, overhangs, and stringing. So the sticky part, like the little stringy parts. So it has almost like a small spoon shape to it. The micro refiner tip, which refines small, detailed, and curved layer imperfections. The micro remover tip removes smaller, close-in support material. So it's like a smaller blade, so you can just get better. It's just better. The blender tip, which I think is pretty cool. So think of it as the bottom part of a spoon, the curved part, and blends the surface of your 3D print where blobs and imperfections have occurred. I mean, I think it's good.
It's neat. It's something that's, I mean,
as far as the price point, so they had the super early bird unit that was $149, so $180 for the first batch. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's,
well, I mean, and if the retail's $400, I mean,
is that the retail or is that a bundle?
I think that's a bundle, but I mean, if it's anywhere over $150, it's not, in my opinion, I wouldn't pay for it.
Oh yeah, but think
It's
of what
neat.
but think of what you end up paying for a nice soldering iron. I mean, one that you can control the temperature on, you're looking at $50.
Yeah, $50.
This, it looks quite a bit more.
I think
it looks quite a bit more ergonomic to hold.
Well, and I think there's a not a spray, but it's something you dip.
The XTC 3D.
I think so.
The thing is, so that's a coating. It basically fills in all the little valleys and voids in between layers. So it's good for doing something like that. But I mean, for this, I would much rather have that heated.
Again, the team, 3 people, a founder. Just please, somebody tell me they have manufacturing background. You have a founder, you have a project manager, and a project designer.
See, do they go through it all and talk about how they are? So manufacturing plan. All right,
Okay.
So at least they have a
Good.
manufacturing plan, because a lot of these companies don't.
No.
They'll just have, we're gonna make it.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. We're gonna do stuff. We're gonna make money.
See. They'll use a specialized outsourced manufacturing partner to assemble the final product. So basically, someone who already makes a soldering iron that's going to put a different enclosure around it. Then probably a machining company that just handles the tips. Let's see. They're already talking with several companies. They'll shortly make a final decision. So I think they're waiting on the final decision based on the volume that they end up getting, which makes sense, because someone who's going to be someone who's willing to handle a small batch, they're not going to be able to handle a large quantity. Where a company that can handle a large quantity, they're not going to want to talk to you if you have less than 100.
Think
or less
about
than
like
1,000.
the CDs that you can buy online or like on TV. They're like, oh, call in the next 15 minutes, you can get this. Well, if you look at it, it says deliveries 2 to 6 weeks, because they're trying to gauge
they don't
how
manufacture.
much quantity.
Yeah, they don't manufacture anything until all the orders are in.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of what That's a sneaky way to do it. Where this, it is a good way to do it. But
so still the complete. Yeah. So completed. They did the test, initial sketches and concept development, 3D printed prototype, form prototype produced. I mean, it's to me.
At
it's
least
still,
they have a plan.
Yeah,
it's something.
It's just there's still. I don't know. It's one of the better looking 3D printing Kickstarters I've seen. So one 3D printing Kickstarter that I did work with, and they delivered, and they essentially delivered what they said they were going to deliver, is the 3Doodler. So the 3Doodler, it's a 3D printing pen. I mean, it's basically a handheld extruder, but that's really all. I mean, it was what they said it was, and for $99, the build quality was what you would expect for the build quality. It's not an amazing product, but it did what it said it was going to do. It was delayed, I think maybe about 6 months, not the worst Kickstarter delay, and at least they delivered, and they didn't ask for additional funds, because that's something I've seen some 3D printing 3D printer Kickstarters do, is they say, oh hey, we we're so close, we just don't have the funding to do this, and so help us out, donate some more funds. And how long are you going to throw? I don't know. I mean, you can't throw good money after bad. And in a lot of these cases, I mean, some companies have been able to issue refunds, but what happens a lot is they only issue partial refunds. And another thing, when everything takes longer to develop and get shipped out the door, you still have employees and you still have that overhead. Whether you're shipping products or not, they're there and you're paying them.
And there's one good. Didn't you have a Reddit thing that you can look up? And because there's one Reddit that I can't remember what it was, where they actually,
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
Well, they went through the whole Kickstarter process, and they pretty much explained how they weren't prepared to make their printer.
Oh yeah. There was a post, someone in the 3D printing subreddit,
and it was a really good one, because it actually stepped through and showed that and he was honest that hey, I didn't know what I was doing per se, or something along those lines.
Well, one of the guys who wrote it was someone who had looked at manufacturing his own 3D printer, so he knows the actual costs involved. He knows what it takes. I mean, even if you go bare bones and you're looking at the number of stepper motors, the stepper control boards, and your main control board, I mean, you're at $150 just in cost, in cost, and that's not your time to assemble. That's not any marketing or advertising, because that's another thing that some companies forget about is, okay, well, when your Kickstarter's done, how are you going to get more customers? because you need to try and get more customers. Well, you're probably gonna have to do online advertising or a ton.
Trade shows. And
trade shows. Yeah, going to a trade show booth. I mean, you're looking at anywhere. I mean, by the time you factor everything in, you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 just to attend a trade show, unless you live in that city. I mean, if you live in that city, then you'd be silly not to go. But yeah, it's just there's all these other costs that no one thinks about, and they think they can make a company out of it. And they can't. That's just the simple matter of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of those parts, they have to injection mold those. So let's look at a $30,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 tool. Now you have to buy in 10,000 quantity to get the price down to a point where you can actually sell it for $179 or $200.
Yeah.
And now you have to have that buy-in. I mean, it's so difficult to have a low cost printer, and I mean that's why all the good printers out there are right in between that $1,300 to $5,000
well, I mean,
because those are the good ones.
There's not many that you can get for under $1,000. I mean, the only printer I think I would recommend for under $1,000 would be a printer bot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a smaller build area, but they seem to have their stuff figured out. I mean, they're good at doing low cost 3D printers. But I mean, you look at even a company like 3D Systems, where they have a $1,000 3D printer, but there's more than $1,000 worth of stuff in it. The reason that it's $1,000 is because they charge you 3 to 4 times as much for the materials. So they make more. They make that much money on just doing the materials. They don't make. It's kind of like a
HP model.
Well, yeah. Where I mean, they're not giving the printer away. Although in a lot of cases they are donating. They're donating printers to a lot of robotics teams and high schools. But then those robotics teams and high schools, they need to buy the materials if they want to keep printing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a smart way to do it, but I don't know. I'd rather have the option to use whatever materials I feel like, and that's what a lot of desktop printers are like now. But yeah, there's just not much good for $1,000 or less. There really isn't.
No, there isn't, and it's like if you go to Walmart and buy an $800 laptop, you're gonna buy an $800 laptop, and that's what it's gonna be. Versus going to Best Buy or Amazon and buying a $3,000 to $4,000 MacBook.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's. You're gonna get what you pay for.
I get what you're saying. $800 for a laptop's not bad. You can get a good one, but I mean, I've seen like the $300 laptops.
Yeah.
And they're not only are they poor quality, they're gonna shatter if you drop them.
I paid $1,400 to $1,500 for mine, and mine still is Back in the day, it was even.
Really?
Yeah, in 2010 it was
Man, see, you can for about $1,500, you should be able to get a kick-ass laptop. But
I don't know.
Well, you didn't have me helping you pick your laptop. No. If you did, it would have been.
That's why I have a desktop now. Just be done with it. I can upgrade it whenever I want.
Desktops are nice.
As long as you don't have to take it anywhere.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole point.
I know, but
I guess as far as the
we're done bashing. We're done bashing Kickstarter.
I think we're done bashing Kickstarter.
They're good for certain things.
Well, you just make sure you do your research into the company that's making the product. And this goes for all Kickstarter stuff, because Kickstarter, you have to keep in mind, you're not purchasing a product, you're backing an idea.
Yeah.
And
you're investing in an idea.
Well, no, you're not even investing, because you don't have any ownership. But you just need to be aware that they don't really have an obligation to give you anything.
Well, yeah.
So just make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah, on that side of things. And then if you're going to do a Kickstarter, do your research before you even list the sale price of your product. Make sure that you can make a business out of it before you take it out there. And make sure you can deliver on that before you make that promise.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the big thing for this week. I guess on behalf of Jake and I, kind of a smaller crew this week, on behalf of Jake and I, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down below.
Hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you found this on iTunes, definitely hit the subscribe button there. If you want to stay in touch with us on our other social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest even. So kind of
we're everywhere.
Yeah, kind of the whole 9 yards. So again, on behalf of Jake and I, thanks for watching.
Have a good one.
Like I can see it's extruding just fine, but it'll click, 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 and then that interrupts it. So I get to rip that apart, figure out what's going on with that.
Brought to you by Wildwood Orange Soda.